Hello everyone, you are on the channel Scary Story. The first real snow of the season had just fallen, blanketing our small town in a thick, silent layer of white. It was the kind of snow that makes everything feel brand new and peaceful. I was 16 at the time, and like any teenager with a new driver's license, I was eager for any excuse to get behind the wheel. My parents, however, were less enthusiastic. They had a strict rule: no driving after dark when the roads were bad. That evening, a friend of mine, Leo, called me. He was having a small get-together at his place. His house was on the other side of town, nestled deep in the woods at the end of a long, winding road that wasn't exactly a priority for the town snowplows. It was a clear violation of the rules, but the temptation was too strong. The snow had stopped falling hours ago, the sky was clear, and the moon was bright. How bad could it be? "Just be careful, man," my dad said, handing me the keys with a reluctant sigh, "and call me if you get stuck. Don't be a hero." I promised I would, grabbed my thickest winter coat, and headed out. The main roads were mostly clear, salted and sanded, but as I turned onto the county road leading towards Leo's, the pavement disappeared under a pristine layer of snow. The world outside my car was magical. The moonlight reflected off the snow-covered trees, making them glitter like they were dusted with diamonds. It was so quiet. The only sound was the soft crunch of my tires compressing the fresh powder. I was about halfway to Leo's, deep into the wooded section of the road, when I saw them. A set of footprints. They started abruptly at the edge of the woods on the right side of the road and crossed directly in front of my car, disappearing into the woods on the left. I slowed down. My curiosity piqued. It was late, past 10 o'clock. Who would be walking out here in the middle of nowhere? There were no houses for miles. The footprints were strange. They were just single impressions, one after the other, in a perfectly straight line, not left, right, like a person walking. It looked more like someone hopping on one foot. But the distance between each print was too large for a hop, maybe 5 or 6 feet apart. And the prints themselves? They were just deep, narrow holes in the snow, almost like someone had been walking on stilts. But there were no other marks, just those single, circular depressions. I dismissed it as some weird animal, maybe a deer that had been leaping strangely. I kept driving, the unsettling image of the tracks still in my mind. A few minutes later I arrived at Leo's. The party was low-key, just a few friends hanging out, listening to music and drinking hot chocolate. I told them about the weird tracks, and we all laughed it off. We concocted wild theories. A one-legged ghost, a pogo-sticking Bigfoot. It was a fun, silly distraction. Around 1 in the morning, the small gathering started to break up. I said my goodbyes and headed back to my car. As I started the engine, a feeling of unease washed over me. The woods that had seemed so magical on the way here now felt dark and foreboding. The trees loomed like silent, watching giants. I shook my head, annoyed at my own paranoia. It was just a quiet drive home. I drove slowly, my headlights cutting a bright path through the darkness. The moon was now hidden behind a thick bank of clouds, and the world outside my car was pitch black beyond the reach of my beams. I reached the stretch of road where I had seen the footprints earlier. I slowed down, half expecting, half dreading to see them again. And I did. But this time, they were different. There was a new set of tracks right next to the first one. They led from the woods onto the road, and then they just stopped. Right in the middle of my lane. The same strange single-file prints, but these were fresh. The edges were sharp and clear, not softened by the wind. And they stopped right where my car was now, as if whatever made them had waited for me. My heart started pounding in my chest. This wasn't funny anymore. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, wanting to get away from this place as fast as possible. My tires spun for a second on the slick snow before catching, and the car lurched forward. My eyes were glued to the rearview mirror, but I couldn't see anything but swirling snow kicked up by my tires. I forced myself to focus on the road ahead. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I was just being stupid. It was probably just some kids playing a prank, trying to scare drivers. That had to be it. I tried to calm my racing heart, my breath fogging up the windshield. Then I heard it, a soft thud from the roof of my car. I froze. It sounded like a heavy snowball or a chunk of ice falling from a tree branch. That's all it was. It had to be. but the sound was too deliberate, too solid. I held my breath listening. Silence. Just the hum of the engine and the crunch of the tires. I let out a shaky breath, feeling foolish. My imagination was running wild. A minute passed, then another. I was starting to relax, telling myself I was overreacting when I heard another sound. A slow, scraping noise. It was coming from the roof, directly above my head. Scrap. Pause. Scrap. Like fingernails dragging across the metal. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't my imagination. There was something on top of my car. I wanted to scream, to slam on the brakes and jump out, but I was paralyzed by fear. Where would I run? Into the pitch black woods? The scraping continued. A slow, methodical sound that seemed to be moving from the back of the roof towards the front. I had to do something. I remembered my dad's words. Call me if you get stuck. I fumbled for my phone in my jacket pocket, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I kept my eyes on the road, terrified to look up. I managed to dial his number, my thumb hovering over the call button. Scrap! The sound was closer now, just above the windshield. And then I saw it. A long, thin, pale finger, tipped with a dirty, broken nail, curled over the edge of the roof and into my line of sight. It was followed by a second, then a third. A hand, pale and skeletal, was pulling itself over the top of my car, right in front of my face. I screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of pure terror. I dropped the phone and stomped on the gas pedal. The car shot forward, the engine roaring. I swerved wildly, trying to shake whatever was on my roof. The car fishtailed on the snow, the back end swinging out. I fought for control, cranking the wheel, my mind screaming. The hand disappeared from view. For a heart-stopping moment, I thought I had thrown it off. But then came a tremendous bang on the passenger side window. I flinched, turning my head for a split second. A pale, gaunt face was pressed against the glass. Its eyes were wide, black and empty, like hollow pits. Its mouth was a lipless slit that stretched into an impossible, silent scream. I yanked the wheel back, my car sliding sideways. It slammed into a snowbank on the side of the road with a sickening crunch. The engine stalled. Everything went silent. For a moment, nothing happened. My breath came in ragged gasps. I was trapped. Slowly, I turned my head to look at the passenger window. The face was gone, but the scraping sound started again, this time on the window itself. That long, pale finger was tracing a line on the glass, leaving a greasy smear. My adrenaline-fueled panic gave way to a desperate need to survive. I turned the key, praying the engine would start. It sputtered once, twice, then roared back to life. I didn't hesitate. I threw the car into reverse, flooring it. The car shot backwards out of the snowbank and back onto the road. I didn't care which way I was going, I just needed to move. I spun the car around in a frantic U-turn and sped back the way I came, back towards Leo's house. I glanced in the rearview mirror. In the red glow of my taillights, I saw a tall, impossibly thin figure standing in the middle of the road. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching me flee. I didn't slow down until I saw the lights of Leo's house. I screeched into his driveway, jumped out of the car without even turning it off, and pounded on his front door, screaming his name. When he opened the door, he found me a hysterical, sobbing mess. It took a long time for me to calm down enough to explain what happened. Of course, they didn't believe me at first. They thought I was pranking them back or had just scared myself. But when they saw the genuine terror in my eyes, and when we went outside to look at my car, they fell silent. There were long, deep scratches all over the roof and down the passenger side. And on the passenger window, smeared in the condensation, was a perfect handprint. But it wasn't a normal handprint. It had 6 long, thin fingers. We all piled into Leo's dad's truck and drove back to my house. I refused to go near my car. My dad was furious when we woke him up, but his anger turned to concern when he saw the state I was in and the damage to my car. The next day, he and a few other men from the town went out to the spot on the road. The car was still there, but my tracks and the struggle marks were the only ones they found. The single-file footprints, the 6-fingered handprint, the tall, thin figure. They were all gone, as if they had been wiped clean by the wind. I never drove on that road at night again. To this day, I don't know what was out there in the snow. But sometimes when it's a cold, quiet winter night, I think about those tracks. And I feel a chill that has nothing to do with the temperature. Some things are better left undisturbed in the silent winter woods. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more. Stay safe out there.